Hello guys, I'm going to give you a quick review of the pathway our blood will take through our entire body. So something like this could be an interesting question on a test. It is important in understanding a lot of what has to do with our circulatory system. So we are going to start off with some capillaries here in our fingertips. So that's what I've drawn, a finger here. These little lines are capillaries. So capillaries is where the exchange of nutrients and oxygen will happen, and carbon dioxide. So they're very, very tiny blood vessels, and you can find these anywhere in our body. We need capillaries in order to exchange things. So all of our cells will have a pretty healthy supply of capillaries nearby so they can receive that nutrients and the oxygen and release off their carbon dioxide and waste. So I'm giving an example of capillaries in your fingertip, but you could have capillaries anywhere. It could be in a kidney, it will be in your lungs, in your feet, in muscles. So our example here is going to be capillaries in your fingertips. So once the blood has made it through the capillary bed, it's going to be fairly low in oxygen or oxygen poor because our cells have used up that oxygen that they've taken from the lungs. So once it leaves there, we are entering into tiny, tiny little veins. So veins are going to be returning blood to the heart. And the first set of tiny, tiny blood vessels after the capillaries are called venules. So I've already added them here, and I'm using blue to denote blood that is oxygen poor. Okay, so we've reached venules. As they get just a little bit bigger, so we're going to imagine them a little bit bigger as it's getting closer, maybe going up your arm, getting a little bit closer to your heart. We are then going to call them veins. So this is, if you look on the inside of your arm and you see those blue lines, those are considered veins. Let me grab my arrow here. So it's getting a little bit bigger, so we have veins. Okay, so the blood is going to continue to travel until it makes it back to the heart along these veins. So it's going to eventually reach, there's two pathways, but this is kind of the largest vein in the body. So these guys right here, which are called Vena Cava, and they're how the oxygen, and there's one here on the top that would be superior and one on the bottom which is inferior, but they're called Vena Cava. So that's the way the oxygen poor blood makes it back into the heart. So again, there's also another pathway down here. So once that oxygen poor blood makes it to the heart, its first stop is right here in the right atrium. So that's, when you're looking at a diagram like this, it can be a bit tricky to remember which side's right and which side's left. So, and that's the same with most medical type models, but you have to think about it as if this heart were in somebody standing across from you. So this would be the right side of that person's body, and this would be the left side. Okay, so the blood has made it to this right atrium. It's going to travel, so this is the first chamber of the heart. So when the heart pumps, it's going to squeeze blood down here into the left ventricle. So let's label those. So that first stop was the right atrium. The next stop after the heart squeezes will be the left ventricle. So the ventricles are these larger chambers toward the bottom of our heart. So still we have oxygen poor blood happening. So once our heart pumps again, it's going to pump blood back out of the heart. So where is it going this time, you might ask? So this time it's headed out to the lungs through these blood vessels here which are called pulmonary arteries. So something to remember is that these pulmonary arteries, this is the only artery you're going to find in the human body that transports oxygen-poor blood on purpose. So normally arteries are going away from the heart. So that's one way of remembering the function of an artery. Away and artery both start with A. So pulmonary arteries are also going away from the heart. And this is the only time you're going to find an artery with oxygen-poor blood. So these pulmonary arteries are going to the lungs to pick up oxygen and also to give off carbon dioxide. So let's imagine we've gone to the lungs, and it's also happening on the right side of the body as well. We've picked up our oxygen in the capillaries of the lungs around those alveoli, and now we are oxygenated. So I'll use oxygenated blood as red. So once it's in the picked up oxygen, it's going back into the heart. So it goes back into the heart through these vessels, which are called pulmonary veins. So every other vein we talked about up till this point carries oxygen-poor blood. These are the only veins you're going to find in the human body that on purpose carry oxygen rich blood. Every other vein is going to have oxygen-poor blood. So after we've been to the lungs, we are now entering back into the heart, into this guy, which is the left atrium. Right here. So that's this left-sided chamber of the heart. And once the heart squeezes to move blood along, we're then into the left ventricle. So that's this large chamber of the heart down here. And this guy's very powerful because he needs to be able to pump blood out to the body. So he is a fair distance that things need to travel with this ventricle. So we're down here into the ventricle. The heart pumps again, and then we're going out to the body. So this is the main artery, and it's the biggest artery in the human body. It's called the aorta. And so that's the first pathway out of the heart. We are now going to, so that will continue the loop. So we are leaving the aorta now in some kind of bigger blood vessels. So these bigger blood vessels are called arteries. So let's label that. As it continues, these blood vessels are going to get smaller and smaller until we have something called arterioles. So it gets smaller until we're back into capillaries. So we've completed the loop, and you can do that loop anywhere in the body because, as we said in the book and in our Skype lesson, humans are a closed circulatory system. So everything is going to continue around in a loop. So I hope this review helps.